I'm Sue Williamson. Everybody calls me Susie. I'm an RN. I have an associate's degree. And I started my career as a certified nurse's aide. I was married and I lived down in a little town called Atlanta, which is outside of Gaylord. And I decided I was just wanted to take care of people. So I went over to the facility in Gaylord and begged them to put me in their nurse's aide class. And they did. And I completed that and I worked there for a few months and decided I was going to be a nurse. So I went to Alpena College and did some pre-nursing testing because I had been raising my children, hadn't been in school since I was in high school. And I tested out high enough that I could get right into the pre-nursing classes. So I took some of those there. And in the meantime, I did a little bit of a research to see what was important to me and to my family and where I wanted to go in this career. And I decided I wanted to be a registered nurse. And I looked at the time frame it was going to take for me to be away from my family for many hours because I had kids and responsibilities. And when I did a research, I found out that Kirtland College in Roscommon, if you kept your grades up and you had already taken pre-nursing classes, you were guaranteed to go right into the RN program. Where some other colleges, you had to do the LPN program and then reapply to be an RN. And Kirtland, as long as you did your stuff, you could go right on. So that was really important to me that I wanted, if I was going to spend time away from my family and I had kids, to do it all at once. So I went to Kirtland College and I completed the entire RN program. And at that time, you know, once we graduated, and of course, you know, us RNs have to take a state test. And one of the funniest things to me was that I didn't realize that people from all over would recruit RNs. So I graduated with honors. And I got recruited from Detroit Hurley and from Flint and Saginaw St. Mary's. They wanted to recruit me into the neuro unit. And I got recruited from Saginaw St. Luke's and gave me $3,000 if I would come into their step-down cardiac unit as a brand new grad. But I turned it down because I wanted to stay where I was located and didn't want to move my family. So I went into the acute care side of nursing. I ended up working in Grayling Hospital as a new grad on the surgical unit and decided I needed a little more acute care experience. So I drove 70 miles each way and went to Petoskey Hospital to work on a step-down unit that did everything from VIP chemotherapy to pre and post bypass people and central lines and all of that. And I got a really good education there for 6-8 months, and I went back to Grayling and I worked acute care in a telemetry unit and in the intensive care unit for 10 years. And at that time, I got offered a job in Hillman at the nursing home in Hillman as an MDS coordinator who does paperwork for the state and federal government in order for nursing homes to get paid. And they offered me a Monday through Friday job. You know, and a raise, so it was closer to home, so I did that. And I really liked it, and we have family and friends up here in the UP, and it ended up that my husband came up to do some work for people, and he didn't come home, and so we thought, well, our kids were all pretty grown, and maybe we would look at a little different career for me. And I applied at Pinecrest. Actually, I sent my resume to Darlene Smith. She was the DON there, and she called me and said, will you come up here with your acute care experience and your MDS experience? I think I have the perfect job for you. And she met me on a Saturday and interviewed, and she hired me. And I've been now at Pinecrest. This is my 15th year. And I spent, about 12 and a half of those years as the care manager of the Alzheimer's dementia unit. And now, the last couple of years when Darlene was made administrator, she asked me to be the director of nursing for her. So I've done that the last 2.5 years. So, and I have found that all the education that I've had along the way between nursing home and acute care, and the federal and state regulations and state surveys, all those things have all accumulated. So I think now I feel like I'm a pretty well-rounded nurse after almost 30 years, and that it's always about our resident care. And when you have a good background and a good education, the openings are just so wide and varied. And that's what I liked about being a nurse, is that I had lots of options about what I wanted to do with my career. I always say I wish I had a quiet day, but what usually happens is I come in the morning, and I'm on call 24/7, of course, so I usually get called any time of the day or night if somebody's sick, and just letting you know so-and-so's going to the hospital or whatever. But I come in the morning, and I usually don't look at all the papers piled on my desk. I go to report with the nurses, and they tell, we just talk about what's been going on in the, that day, and what the residents are needing, or if somebody's got an appointment, or if we might be having admissions. And then I go back to my office and I look at everything from incident reports, and I do, in on our computer, we're very up to date and computerized. Just about everything in Pinecrest is on the computer. And I look at stuff that might be relevant, if the state surveyors might show up, and I have reports I do for that. I work on quality assurance. I work with people have occurrences and all that kind of stuff. I go see people and say, you've got too many occurrences, or things like that. We work with the union, of course. Some of our building has union employees, and so we have contracts to follow. And then I also talk to families. Families will come see me, or they'll call me, and if they have a concern or what they need to do, and the RNs call me, and the nurses' aides come to see me. So my day is usually really varied and busy. I'm busy from the time I hit the door and until I go out the door at night. Every time I think I've had a really bad day, I hate to say bad because I don't really think of it that way, but ever since I've been a nurse, there's always something, no matter what your job is, whether you work in a hospital or you work in a nursing home, or if you're a nurse's aide or an LPN or an RN, it doesn't matter. There's some days that are always stressful. But I always look back to those things when someone said to me, "Thank you, Susie, for helping me," or, "Geez, you really explained that to me. I've had 5 doctors in here and they've never explained that to me that way. Now I really understand." And we do that all the time. I think a big thing with being in any kind of healthcare field is the care and the education that we give to other people. And so if you have a day that's really stressful and you're, oh my goodness, why did I choose to do that? Then I remember back to people who said thank you and how important a difference I made for them in their life. And that's what makes you stay being in healthcare. I think one of the things you need to be is just know what you want and be willing to do it no matter what it takes. Because every time if you tell yourself you can't do it, you won't be able to. And I think just about anybody can go down this path. If you really want it, I think people are intimidated by the amount of education and the amount of studying and the things you have to know. But if you start out simple and just focus on one day at a time, one class at a time, before you know it, the time has gone by and you've learned everything you need to learn to go on and become a good health caregiver. And as a health caregiver, I never quit learning. I have taken so many extra specialty classes and, satellite courses, ICU classes, CPR, all of that stuff. I even did ACLS when I worked at the hospital. And I never thought I could learn all that stuff. And I have, and I've kept it, and now I've learned more. So I think people don't give themselves the credit that they can learn this, and I really believe everybody can. When I started out as a nurse's aide, I got the 3 to 11 shift and the 11 to 7 shift on the worst hall in the building at that time. But I will tell you, I made a really good friend all those years ago, and she was a great preceptor, and we are still friends, and she is still a nurse's aide. And then as you progress in your career, when I was a new grad as a nurse, I worked 12-hour shifts and I got the night shift and I got every holiday. But after a while, you work your way up and you find that you don't really mind working some of those holidays and shifts. You know, I say that now because there's times when I say, geez, when I used to work the night shift, I didn't have to worry about so many meetings and I didn't have to worry about, you know, who's coming and going as much during the day. So sometimes other shifts have an advantage and you learn different things on each shift because every time of day for somebody who's needing your help has different needs. The only thing I might do differently, truly, is start a little bit sooner. You know, I could have gone right from high school and I decided I wanted to get married and had a family and had kids. And when my kids were younger, I thought, oh, geez, you know, I don't have to just stay home. I could really have gone to college. I could have probably done it sooner. But I have never regretted that the timing was right for me. And I think that's the thing people have to decide. If it's not the right time and you can't give it that dedication, there's nothing wrong with waiting a year or two. Or if you want to go right in and you know that's what you want, do it. I think one of the most important things for me throughout my career as being a nurse is not just the things I have done on my job. My education has helped everybody I have ever known. All my family, all my friends, my children, my grandchildren. So you're not just educating yourself, you're really giving something back to anybody in your life if you go into healthcare.